ourselves, and then we'll begin with the minutes. So,
Sure.
Nora.
So, hi everyone. I'm Nora Johnsmeyer, and I moved to Orleans full-time last spring and bought my own house here in East Orleans in November. So working on renovating that house, that's kind of my big project. In the meantime, staying with my family in South Orleans, and very excited to be here full-time, really kind of working to build my social network and plug into the community. So excited to be able to play a role on the Cultural District Committee.
Great, good. Bonnie.
I'm Bonnie Campbell Runyon. Hi, Nora. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Norma.
I'm Norma Gwen, and I'm happy that you're here because I'm no longer the newbie.
Thank you.
Pamela.
I'm Pamela Feltus, and I'm happy you're here because I was terribly confused updating our website yesterday. So now I'm not confused. Sarah and I are no longer confused.
Oh.
We're going back and forth like, I don't know who this Nora is.
Oh my goodness. I think I did send a notice out about a week ago, Pamela. So maybe I'll put it.
I think I do remember seeing something like that at the beginning, a long time ago.
Right.
And it was on your contact list yesterday. It was on the website, but I was like, I have no clue who she is. Was she that lady who came once and never came again? So now I know who she is.
You have to read things twice, I think. Claire.
Claire O'Connor Rice, welcome.
Thank you.
Peter.
Peter Brown with the Academy of Performing Arts, and glad to have you join us.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Peter.
And just on board, Gail. Gail, this is Nora.
Hi, Nora. I'm with Arts Empowering Life.
Ah, terrific. Nice to meet you, Gail.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on with the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All right, minutes have been approved and seconded. Report of the treasurer.
Actually, you have to vote on
We
that.
have to.
Oh, sorry, forgot
Move
that.
that.
We need a motion to approve. We have that. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Peter, seconded.
All
All
right.
those in favor?
Aye.
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 I think we need to show our hands because of Zoom
Okay.
and a roll call.
All those opposed? Okay, minutes passed.
Thanks, Claire, for keeping me updated on Robert's Rules of Order. It's not my forte.
I'm not sure it's mine either, but I see that I'm next. Report of the treasurer.
Okay.
Good news that we got the $7,500 grant from the state. 40 cultural districts were approved, just so you know. We were one of the first of 6, and we appreciated our timely submission. So we have $7,500 that will be coming to the town fairly soon. He's working to get those approved, and then we have a remainder unspent, but what do you call it when it's encumbered for $1,854 from last year's grant, which we are allowed to use this year. So we have money, and we need to move forward with getting a coordinator, because that's what most of the money is for. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay.
No, but good work, Claire. Hallelujah
Yeah.
to everybody.
It's
Good
a
work.
great feeling to have some funds, that we can actually move forward. And that's the big job, is to get busy and make it happen.
And just because it comes up with the treasurer's report, there is a possibility, and I haven't explored it completely. The MCC has $1,500 set aside for what was called festivals that you can apply for. And a lot of the people, street fairs, street activities are now allowed to be included in festivals, since they know that they're not going to be a lot of people actually doing festivals. So if you want to explore that, doing it with either the chamber or any other organization that wants to do any type of festival. A lot of people are using the art walks and that kind of thing to draw that down. We can apply, but we'd have to, I think we'd have to have somebody else do most of the legwork.
Right. Did you find out the date that has to be submitted?
I didn't. I'm gonna look right now.
Oh, okay, because it certainly can work in with some of the other things that we're doing.
Well, if people are interested, I'm happy to go ahead and take a look and see if this is
Oh,
something
yeah.
you want to do. Okay.
All right. So I thought I would just do an overview, and then as hopefully Mary will be in. She hasn't sent me a email to say she wouldn't be. So did you have a question, Pamela?
I thought she did pop in. Okay.
I don't see her.
She popped in for a minute and then she left.
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing another square.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have to approve the treasurer report?
No, I don't think so. We don't
No?
have anything written.
Okay.
Yeah,
Report, it's not in action.
right.
Okay.
So basically, as far as public relations, we were so excited. We're ready to get this out into the press, but Louise has asked that we not do any PR about receiving the grant until all of the grantees have completed this MCC project. So we're waiting for the okay from him, and they'll probably send out a paragraph or two that needs to be included. So it's hard not to put this in and celebrate, but we'll have to wait.
I apologize. I'm just looking online and it's for $500, not $1,500, although that might have changed. And the deadline is March 15th.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I don't
Like
think it's,
Days.
well, I don't think it's
Right.
a lot. I don't think you have to write a lot, so I'll take a look.
But we need a plan.
It's good. I think we and that just slides into talking about the chamber a little bit. I think they are a primary partner, and it would be good if we could have a liaison from our group who would work with the chamber, at least letting us know what they're working on so we can partner on part of the project. I mean, I'm sure they would support a stroll. This has been something they've initiated. Hi, good morning, Mary. That they've initiated in the past. And I think since they stepped up and asked questions about the cultural assets and the businesses that are not members of the chamber, their vision is the broad view of the town. I think because there are a number of go-getters on the board. So if you have that information on the stroll, I mean, I'm just talking about some of these ideas now, and then when we get down to the implementation and action of the grant, we can decide on that. But I think it would be good to consider having a representative from our group that at least checks in with the chamber and finds out what they're doing. I mean, unless you're a member and get their emails, you don't really know.
Is Sherry a member?
Sherry's a member. I think Mary's a member.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It does, you know what, I actually like, one or two people to work on this, because I guess we have to submit it. What's today's date?
Today is the 9th.
All right, so we've got, the guidelines are pretty good. I actually think he did increase the amount because I think there were fewer, since there would be fewer applicants. So, but I'm happy to work on it, but I'd like one or two people to also be available to work on it, to respond.
So let's get down. Let's do that when we get down to the
New business,
implementation of the
okay.
grant, because people
Okay.
are gonna decide what they want to do or not. Let's see. How does the grant work? I thought that was important because George was working with John Kelly, the administrator, and to figure out what would be the best way for the cultural district to receive these funds and actually have a job description out for a part-time coordinator.
You're talking about the $7,500 grant.
Yes, we've
Okay.
switched away from the stroll. So, so I got an email from George on Friday, and what they've decided is that the funds that are going to be distributed to a consultant, which is how we would categorize our coordinator for the old firehouse, would actually be sent to the Orleans Community Partnership, which is the nonprofit that has the license agreement with maintaining the old firehouse for community uses. So in this way, we would not be having to submit requests for payment through the town, and it would be a lot more complicated. So this is a really simple way of handling that. And it also allows us to have a little more power. So in terms of how we want to structure that. And I think some of you were concerned about that. So, so when the funds are actually arrive in the finance department, a check will go to the Orleans Community Partnership, and then everything will operate out of there. So that I think it's the easiest and is a way that both George and John thought would be the best way to operate for that. Cape Cod Commission third survey results. I sent a copy of to all of you yesterday or day before with the agenda. I think the third survey, and it was over 450 businesses, has identified some needs that we had not considered when we were talking about questions for our survey of I'm calling them the 39 because it's faster to say than 39 cultural assets in Orleans. So I think we need to extend or expand our survey direction. And I think that will also tie in with the offer from the Chamber of Commerce, who they're having their meeting right now simultaneously, where they are discussing whether to go forward with their idea of coming up with a project to support the cultural assets in Orleans. And I was very happy to submit Mary's brand new vetted list of the 39 assets so that the chamber could use that as a reference. So I think as we get down into action, we'll have our survey committee, which Gail is heading, talk about maybe meeting next week and see if we can get that formalized, but tying it in with all the different news that we have, one of which is segueing right into Mary, is the final design for the banner. So that's been approved. And Mary, you could give us an update.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Actually, I've been having some serious technical problems. I'm still trying to work on it right now. And I haven't had my computer available. That's been the problem. I just got it back. I was trying to join this meeting on my phone and couldn't. So sorry I was late. If I could just go in another like 5 or 10 minutes, I could have this for you. I'm just kind of trying to download it now.
Oh.
Would that be okay?
Sure.
Should we jump ahead to something, come back to me?
Right. Okay.
Thanks. Sorry about that. You'd think after a year of this, I'd have this down, but I'm still like struggling with this technical stuff.
Well, I think you do a fabulous job, and and you're on it much more than most of us. So we can, do you have any comments on the signs? Because that doesn't involve a graphic.
The signs I have not gone back to yet. It's just waiting on one thing that I need to just go and check out, and I will try to get on that right away.
Yeah, can one of us help you with that and lighten the load a little bit?
Yeah, if someone wants to present the idea to the owner at Canterbury Leather to try to get his, his approval to put the sign on his property, that'd be great. That's the one thing that I just have to go. I think his name is Scott Ridley. Isn't that right, Joanna?
Right. Well, I'll go and do that if anyone wants to come with me, but I'll just take a copy of that and see if I can help get that go forward. I don't mind doing that.
That would be great. I told you before, I had talked with Steve Kemp, and he thought that was a good location too. But obviously, the idea is to try to expand the district and to show it with the signs. And that's, it would be a good thing for that end of town to have the sign way out on the edge.
Yeah. So we can just talk briefly and you can tell me where ideally you would want that sign. And that,
Sure.
And I actually woke up this morning and I said, I think maybe we need to put little posts in the locations that you've worked on so that when it actually comes to putting these new signs in the ground, we're not going to have DPW wondering where the spot is. I think we need to actually physically put something there.
Good idea.
That or follow along behind the truck, one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Have a representative who says this is the spot. So
Just a question, is Canterbury Leather listed as one of our 39 assets?
no.
Probably.
Sure.
Although I think they're carrying some jewelry, but I'm
They
not
do.
sure where it
They
comes
do carry
from.
jewelry.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue leather's a craft, which is an art.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
people make things there.
And his stuff is pretty. I mean, if I did leather.
he carries locally sourced things, so I think that,
If it's locally sourced, we could add them, right?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And now we have 40.
Then that makes it a 40.
Biblical.
Does he actually own that property then?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's my understanding, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it may be condominiumized. I didn't look into it, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So at the artist series with the grant, we can go ahead and begin the artist series at the old firehouse for the Saturday program that we had planned with the Coastal Craft Gallery. And because of the grant, we can offer that same program on Friday nights to teenagers or adolescents, which borders right on the free paint night that Nauset Together We Can had started. And as they said, they had so many people, students or ex-students show up that they ran out of supplies. So there's definitely a need for that. And I think the exciting part is to know that we can go forward with that. And I'd like to talk about that as we go talk about the implementation of the grant. But this is really targeting an audience and expanding the original idea that we had before we had money. So I think this is a really exciting direction. So we'll need some people to help implement that. And the other place that ties into that I would like someone to act as a contact person would be one of the things that I've learned with the restoration of the Duke portrait, which is going ahead famously. And I sent you the video. It's a remarkable video.
Really?
And that was right. And that was filmed by Channel 18 with their Arts Light program. And the Cultural Council actually helped fund that, as I'm sure other cultural councils in the area. But it's a fantastic video. And I think it shows the quality of their work. And we had talked about filming these workshops so that the local artists who are doing the workshops on Friday night and Saturday morning could actually have them filmed, and then they become archived, and then they become part of the Orleans Facebook page and the Orleans Cultural District website. And we have these series of videos of local artists. And I think it would be great to consider launching that idea, because Channel 18 just arrives and takes care of it. And so it's part of what they want to do. So
Anna, since these are children's programs, remember our press media releases we would need?
Ask that again.
Because these are children's programs, we would need
No,
media
these are
releases.
for adolescents. These are
Well, same thing, under 18, we would need media releases.
Yeah, they all signed those at
Okay.
the beginning of the school year, traditionally. This year, I'm not sure, because they haven't had those kind of opportunities. We're talking about when it's possible for, like, April, maybe when the schools open a little bit, or when, and we need someone to find that out as well.
There are a lot of details before opening up the old firehouse. And I mean, I feel very strongly that we should move forward and get a coordinator on board as quickly as possible, so that that person can take on some of the tasks that would be involved. I mean, you've got, all the sanitation, you've got all of the regulations, you've got, a lot of things that have to be put in place before people will be comfortable sending their children or sending themselves, before the artists will be comfortable in doing it. So we can move ahead on as soon as possible with hiring the coordinator, because we had money left over from last year targeted to the coordinator. So we don't actually have to wait for the grant to arrive to begin to pay that person. So I don't know how fast we can move and what it takes to get that coordinator on board, so that that person can be the lead in making this all happen.
Right, but I think we don't really know what the job market is out there. And I think we need to work as if the person is going to apply and we're going to find someone, but I am uncomfortable just waiting for that to happen. I'd like to have our direction set so that we can move forward as fast as it's possible in terms of COVID openings.
Can I also ask a question? When you hire the coordinator, you are writing the job description, it sounds like, because it's written through the grant.
It's been written.
Clear who the coordinator reports to? Because the kind of issues Claire is raising are really valuable. As of, Joanna, you and I have struggled for years in that building. Will they, just in procedurally, if you could be very clear, because we've had problems with when other committees hire staff, it gets very confusing about who that staff reports to. And if you can declare that in a very crisp way, that would serve everyone.
Right. The job description, Norma has agreed to be chair of that search. And the job description was sent to George, I think 3 weeks ago. And so, excuse me?
Did we all get a copy of that job description?
No, but we can send you, I was going to, talk about that. So I'll send that out to you and have you send it to anyone that might be interested.
Is it clearly delineated, Norma, as to who the person reports to?
Pardon?
Is it clear in the job description who the person reports to?
Actually, I don't know if I have a copy of the draft here. I think it makes reference to the community planning, the group that you mentioned, Joanna, that all of this was going to work towards. That's the line that it reports, but it's still a group. So.
And when we wrote that, we did not know how the money was going to be handled. We didn't know if we had the grant. So we worked with George and deferred to the town as to how they thought it would best be done. So that's where we're at. And I believe George is willing to post it. So I think we need to maintain that connection with the town. because it's a town building. So there's a lot of layers, but it's all very exciting news, and I think we can make it happen.
But who's the supervisor? Who's the person who does their performance review, who makes sure they're doing their job, who, all that sort of stuff, all that fun stuff?
Mhm. It's a, I can't answer that right now. I
But
don't.
also you'll have to, when you go to get, if there are any permits involved or any clearance, or, you know, when you need to invite Bob Canning in to look at your procedures before you reopen for COVID, everybody who's connected with a business in town will tell you the protocols are strict and you have to post things right now.
Right.
So you really need to know when that person goes to go through their process, who they represent, and who's able to, you know, your job description is perfect, but who's going to be, is it somebody from the town or somebody from the committee? I don't care what you decide, it just has to be clear what the protocols are.
I think it should be more, you know, not just one person. And I think what we'll do is, I was going to ask someone to be a contact with the health department and find out what they think so that we're prepared before we go ahead and hire someone. We need to have all of those protocols in effect, or know what they are.
Joanna, they exist on the state website for each kind of business. I would protect the Board of Health right now because they are working nights and weekends trying to keep up with licensing and permitting, and during the day deal with COVID things. So this information is readily available. And if you need any help with it, reach out to me, because I've had to do it for both businesses, two types of businesses.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. That'll be great. Right. And I think we wouldn't do this until there's been some decision made by the schools, because we're going to follow their pattern or what they require. Because
Well, you have the adult,
logical.
the workshops, the artist workshops, you have some of them for adults. So, I mean, I think you can, you know, we can look at targeting dates on starting some activities. I have to say that I think reporting to a committee, I don't think I'd take a job if I had to report to a committee and it was unclear as to who I was going to actually report to.
Right.
So, I mean, it's good to have a committee who might be available, but there has to be one lead person. I think that we have the agreement from the town, you know, that George would be the liaison and perhaps, you know, like act as the town, you know, there might be like a joint supervision of that with the town and with the OCP, but it has to be a person. It can be, say, you could say the chair of the OCP if you don't, we don't want to designate, you know, say that it's you this year, somebody else next year, or the like, but it has to be an individual person.
Mm-hmm. So Norma, would you be willing to work with George when we get to that point?
Sure.
Okay. And then we'll make a connection also with the Orleans Community Partnership. So, and in relation to the grant, which was something I wanted to talk about in item 6, we also have had an offer by the vice president of the Orleans Community Partnership to help with fundraising and possibly, you know, work with some of the programs that we have and actually go forward with some kind of fundraising by the Orleans Community Partnership. It's down the road, but the offer is there. So that's an exciting possibility as well. So I think that we've just, is there any other comments or questions on the job description, the search, the program coordinator, the OF support?
Well, I might after I see the job description, but
Okay.
I'm sort of like, I don't know.
Yeah, we did not get it back with any corrections from George, so I think we're pretty much there.
Yeah, I would, Joanna, people need jobs, so I think it would move very quickly.
Oh, that's very positive.
I mean, we advertise for something, we normally get like, 20 applicants for a job when we got over 100.
You know what would be helpful, Pamela, is what sources you use when you are advertising for a job, what
We
website?
use only Indeed. Which I don't
Only
know.
Indeed?
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
there's
this was a junior job, so it wasn't worth you to go on the Symphony's web, on the
Yeah,
Symphony
right,
websites or
right.
anything. So
Yeah, and I think the chamber they're doing a job search for Lisa, who's leaving to take a job with the Katuitt History Museum.
Ooh.
Lisa was the assistant at the Cape Cod Chamber. And so they're looking for a new assistant to the chamber, and that's also a part-time job. And they used a different search. So I'll find that out, and then we can, Norma and I.
We could kind of meld them together.
Yeah, that might be a share opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially because it's the same building.
Right. And so I think the working with them is important, and I think we'd have to decide how to define that. Mary, are you ready with the banner?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, so let's see. The sticking point for me with the banner, I mean, the design piece is finished. I can show you the images now that I figured out how to do that. The sticking point for me are the poles in East Orleans. So I feel very, very strongly that when we do this with the banners, we do not want them to only be downtown. They need to be expanded to Rock Harbor, to East Orleans, that whole thing that we've been talking about for years about Bay to Ocean and the corridor, and, incorporating all of that into what the cultural district is. It's not just about an art gallery in the middle of town. It's about all of the cultural assets and natural assets that bring people to the town. So I think it's really important that as a cultural district committee that we are showing that, as well as walking the walk by putting these banners clear across town. And it's just a corridor. It's unfortunately not a corridor that goes by my business, but it's a corridor that goes through town. So I think it's, I really strongly feel very strongly about it. But the sticking point in East Orleans there are no decorative poles there that the town does not own any poles there. So it makes it a little more challenging to hang a banner. So after some research, I found out that the poles are actually owned by Verizon in Orleans. It's really bizarre. I don't know why they split the Cape up this way, but like half of the Cape towns are owned by Eversource and half of them Verizon, but we happen to be in a Verizon area. So I reached out, Sherry had the idea to contact Melissa Hirsch, who's I don't remember what her formal title is, but she's the coordinator for the cultural assets in Hyannis and Barnstable, High Arts and the Barnstable one. She does both. She's like a paid person. The town of Barnstable is hired to coordinate this, to kind of do what we try to do in a committee. And I met her a few years ago. I'm sorry.
I think it's Hyannis that she's coordinator.
It's High Arts, but I think Barnstable Village also.
Town of Barnstable. She's the town of Barnstable.
Oh, okay.
So I reached out to her and she was great. She called me right back, and I told her about the problem with the poles and thinking that for sure they had run into this in that giant district that they have. And of course they had, and I thought I was going to get some really good news from her. And I was really a bit discouraged because she said they just couldn't get it done. And I was like, that's not, I wanted her to give me the name of the guy to call to get it done. And she was like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So she had some other suggestions, and I started digging around and looking around, and I knew somebody else. I knew, pretty sure Sandwich has it, but my pictures didn't show it. And I realized right here in Eastham, they've got banners hanging on the Verizon poles. And I'm like, okay, who did that? So a little more research. It wasn't the chamber. It was something called, it's such a long name. It's called the Visitors Tourism and Promotion Services Board. And I dug around in their minutes from 5 or 6 years ago and found that, yes, in fact, they had been the ones that put the banners in Eastham. And it's on Brackett Road. They're hanging on Verizon light poles, and they got it done. So I have an email going to Jim Russo, who is chair of that committee, to find out exactly how they did it. He was involved in it at that time. And I really think if we can give a package to the town and say, this is who you need to call, and it will get done, because they did it in Eastham, which is right here, that they'll be able to get it done here in Orleans. And I think it's kind of a pain, but and I'm sorry to have, made this drag on for so long, but I just feel really strongly that we need to get those in East Orleans, just as it's very important. So that's where we are with hanging them. Because when I talked to Melissa, she also pointed out that when you contact Eversource or Verizon, whichever, I think they might have had, I can't remember which one they had, but anyway, she said it was 1,000 questions about, liability and what if the banner falls on someone? And I'm like, that didn't even cross my mind. So there's a lot involved in it. So it's really nice that Eastham's already paved the way for that. And hopefully it will be easy, because there isn't even any discussion in their minutes about putting them up. Their DPW called Verizon and put them up. It wasn't like a big hassle for them. So it's a hassle for us.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah, I mean, the
Or
biggest
they have really bad minutes.
Well, yeah, the minutes, actually looking at other towns' minutes makes you realize how important to make yours look. You don't need to say every single item that happens. I mean, these are all recorded if someone wants to go back and hear every breath they can, but apparently Eastham's had some problems in losing their banners in the DPW building, and they wrote about it in minutes, which is entertaining. But hopefully we won't have that problem here. We can learn from them. So the other update would be to show you the updated design. Sherry had a great idea that she knows the head of marketing for some long at UMass. She knows the terminology for the printing, and I'm not familiar with it. So she suggested a lighter screen. So I'm going to try to share my screen and show you. I also have an updated invoice for you to go over. So this was the first, did it work?
It says you started screen sharing.
Yep.
Yeah, there we are.
Yay.
Oh, wow. They look great.
I'm so glad that Nora gets to see these, that we've been talking
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun. So these were the first, this was the first proof that was given to us. And you can see that so just to review there's a light screen of the curve is repeated from the logo up into the banner. So it's got two-tone blue. It's really not two colors. It's a lighter screen of the same color. And the color's been verified. Sherry did some work on that, and I contacted Signorama, and they've updated that. So that was the first version. And if you'll notice in the second one, the swoop of the wave in the top of the Orleans Cultural District banner is a little more pronounced. So it just pops a little
Yes,
more
it does.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
if you go from that one.
Yep.
Nice.
So that's where we are with it. And we are going to get one printed one set printed so that we have them to show George. And, before we go ahead with this several $1,000 project, it seemed like a good idea to get one printed. And the original thought was to get the Teresa's Way one printed in case we wanted to make some minor change. I can't imagine a major change because it looks great to me, but if there's any minor changes, Teresa's Way is not in line with the others, so you wouldn't be able to compare it right next to something else. So that would be the one that would make sense to get done first. Because it's behind the Whole Food store, basically. I mean, I think you guys already know that.
Yeah, right.
Joanna's going to beat you about the head, so.
Well, they finally cut the tree that was hanging over the light pole there. So
Yeah.
at least they got that done.
Yeah. So the invoice for this, I asked for an updated invoice because there's a lot more banners here than we had originally proposed, 11, and now we're talking about, I think, 16 of the larger district banners and 8 of these
I see.
location banners. So it's quite a bit more than we had originally done. Signorama is still holding the $1,500 from the grant that we paid them in advance. And so I'm just going to share, it's okay to share the invoice on this, isn't it? Or is that not a good idea?
I don't see any problem with it because you would share our treasury reports. Treasury reports are
Okay.
fine.
So here it is, the top of it. Oops. So, well, it's from Signorama in Yarmouth, South Yarmouth. I've been working with the owner. He's been really helpful, really patient. Their proofs have been really nice. And anyway, so here we are. It shows the 1586.20 that was the amount that we paid from the first grant. And so it's a little more than double what we had thought, but I mean, it's also a lot of banners and a lot of brackets. So the size is the same, but we've added, like I said, we went from.
Yeah, I think we had 17 originally, finally 17.
I think the original estimate he gave me, and I can look that up,
Oh,
but I think
14.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a bit less, but it was only 11 banners, and we didn't have the double banner. That's been added. We originally just started with a single banner. So that means double brackets too. And it's crazy. The brackets cost more than the banners, but that's the way it works.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't think we want to skimp on that. If that's what they recommend with the wind, I think we really want to, it's their business, and I'm not going to go shopping for, I want them to stay hanging.
Well, that's your safety feature anyway. The banners, I mean, the brackets.
And that'll walk us into liability if we buy cheap brackets and somebody.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
We're doing it what they recommend. I think
Yeah, listen to the experts. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
So that's
Mary, this is fantastic work to get it to this point. It's very exciting.
I'm sorry it's so slow, but
yeah.
So anyway, that's where we are, and I guess I don't need to share this any longer. I can send any of those things to you if you need it for hard copies anywhere.
Can you send me the that second proof, and I'll just put it as an addendum to the minutes? Just
sure.
I don't know. It seems something important that we should document.
Yeah.
Mary, could you send me that last prototype with the examples? And that would be a good thing for me to be able to show the people at Canterbury Leather so they get the big picture. And I'll bring a copy of the signs for.
I can send you that. I can send you the mock-up I did. It's not great, but I photoshopped the Orleans Cultural District on there.
Okay, great. Great.
How would that relate to Canterbury Leather?
Right.
Well, because if we're talking about an overview and we've got new signs to place for the cultural district, and there's going to be banners going up around town, I think that it's more inviting to a business person to see that this isn't like a happenstance thing. This is an overall plan.
Is there a banner going on anywhere near where their business is? No.
Yeah, will they feel left out and wonder why we're ignoring them?
I think if I might just say, I think they might, but I think if Joanna can explain that this is I'm hoping the first phase of banners, and that it is a corridor that we're going for, and then the next corridor would be the 6A corridor. It's just the 6A corridor has some problems because there aren't very many light poles that are owned by the town. But I'm not sure what the town's plan is for that. I would assume that the sidewalks and everything they've done downtown is going to expand to other parts of town at some point. But I mean, I don't think we should wait for that to do a phase 2 of banners, but.
No, but I think we actually met with pre-COVID. We presented our ideas to the planning board regarding streetscape on the 6A corridor. So I guess that was pre-COVID because we were there in person. So I think they have plans for that. And when those plans get formalized in some way, we can be part of that committee and add ourselves to the mix. So I just think it's important to get these going in terms of what we already have and what you've done. So
we are going to have to readjust the budget to reflect the added price. And so I'll come up with some suggestions and get that around to people for you to look at.
Right. So one of the things on the survey packet that I was thinking about is to include when we visit businesses, or if that is still going to be part of what we do, the Cape Cod Commission said basically that it wasn't getting sanitizers that was the issue. It's more marketing, how to increase their online presence. And so I think we need to expand what we were thinking about in terms of survey questions or what we would present to the businesses. So why not include in this little packet Mary's diagram or illustration of all of the banners and what we plan to do with that. Include the list of 3940 cultural assets. And I thought, what about a postcard of the actual Orleans Cultural District sign, which is really attractive. And on the back, we print the names of the 39 or 40 cultural assets. I think thinking about how we can, for not a lot of money, get the idea of the cultural district out there to businesses, and they could have a stack of postcards. And then, you know, I think if we could meet next week, if we could meet with and talk about those questions and what we want to present to the businesses, then that's something that we could do quite quickly.
Can I just go back to the banners, Mary? Do we have an estimated time of when you're thinking that these would be printed and then put up? Do you have a rough estimate of the time?
Steps would be to get this prototype done. They can do it quite quickly, within days. The printing is within days. Not sure they have the brackets in-house, but I would think I could get them pretty quickly too. Then has to clear before George, and with the prototype is what I'm thinking. Then he has to let the select board know. We're not looking for approval. They already know it's happening. We just need to give them a heads up. And I think he's set to do that, and he can use my PowerPoint or whatever he wants to do with that. And then it's just a matter of scheduling with DPW, or DPW is going to have to check with Verizon. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm like hoping like within the next 6 weeks, I would hope.
So you're hoping for May 1st.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like before this, certainly before Memorial Day. We can't have it run up against that, or they'll run out of time. DPW won't have time to do it.
Yeah, I think it would be good to give DPW a heads up that you're thinking about May 1st, so he can at least put it on their schedule.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because you can't just walk in and say, can you guys do that tomorrow?
Right.
So, and let's just say it's definitely going to happen. So.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's really good. I think in terms of the survey too, it might depend on what the chamber board of directors is deciding, and if they are willing to go ahead with the project, which the idea was an online auction representing every cultural business in Orleans, that would impact what we include in our survey or in our packet to the businesses. So I think from our point, we would just be the contact people. And if they go ahead with this project, the chamber would be doing all of the legwork, from an account, from the PR, the posters, all of that kind of thing. So, so our ability, and also if we decide we wanted to take some of that COVID reopening funding and help with that particular project. So we'll know by the end of the day, and I'll contact Gail, and then we can come up with some kind of meeting next week. And then we'll be in touch that way in terms of putting the survey stuff together.
Can I just ask,
any comments on that?
How are we defining cultural asset? Because I think we have to go back to the whole issue of, there are organizations that would define fine food as an asset of some sort. So, I think that, I think even if we talk about the 40 cultural district assets, we should be very clear how those got defined. I think that there would be some organizations or institutions that would consider themselves to be a part of the cultural mix in Orleans, and you wouldn't want to insult them. So I think we just have to be very careful about how you label the 40 cultural district members. I may be being overly cautious, but I mean, I would think if I were doing an auction, I got to tell you, I'd want food in there. So.
Right. And so I just think we need to do that. And Mary, I know you're going to comment on the definition. So we went through this also when Bonnie and I were working on the cultural district map. So,
well, can Mary talk about, can we get the definition? Yeah. What is, how do you define it?
Mary?
I think it makes, my connection is, hello?
We can hear you.
My connection is a little flaky.
Yeah, we hear you
me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Frozen, but okay. So I think the definition that I go back to all the time is just MCC's definition of what's considered. I don't know that they have a definition of cultural asset, but the things that they fund back when I was on the Cultural Council, they basically fund the arts and the arts is the humanities, I guess, yeah. But they define it as everything from, literary arts to performing arts and visual arts. So bookstores would be included in that, say. And actually, I'm not sure if they are. Are they included in that 39? Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's, so literary arts is included, but it's not just arts too, because it's also interpretive science. And that's where Birdwatchers General Store would come in. And that's why our whole thing about Ocean to Bay comes in, because that's part of why people come here. And it is a cultural asset to have the natural stuff that we offer people with in terms of hiking trails and things like that. I mean, like you could include the Orleans Pond Coalition in this, I suppose, but that is kind of stretching it a bit. But it's not just about commerce. That's a thing that I think we tend to fall into, thinking it's got to be stores and businesses. And that's why I kind of go, I think the chamber is a good resource, but I don't think they should be the backbone of this, because they're already serving businesses. So
Norma?
I have a question, not being here when all of that was discussed the last time. Is there any wording in the definition that says it has to be open to the public? A cultural asset has to be open to the public, because there are plenty of people that have cultural assets or do designing or make jewelry, but they only sell them, either online or in a cart, or they don't have their studio open to the public. Is there anything in there that says, since we're offering this to the public, then these places are indeed open to the public?
Well, I know in the grants, when we looked at some of these other options, that it was required to be open to the public. Okay. But
here's the Texas state definition. A cultural asset is something that has value because of its contribution to communities, creativity, knowledge, traditions, culture, meaning, and vitality. They can be a place you visit to express your cultural identity and/or the resources one uses to pursue a creative practice. They can be tangible assets such as a facility, building, or physical work of art. They can be intangible or temporal, such as annual events, shared cultural stories, cultural landmarks, or icons that no longer exist.
Whoa.
That's very broad.
Yeah, very broad.
Well, that's Texas.
As I was going to say.
Oh, this was from Texas?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
It was the first thing that popped up.
Wow. Well, I think I think Mary's reference to following the MCC guidelines is the salvation here.
Let's see if MCC has one.
Yeah.
Well, agree, since it's their money. I mean, in this case.
Correct, right. And we're representative of them. So I think, that's the area to go. So are there any other comments in this in general, generally speaking? I just want to, so Claire, you wanted a couple people to
Yeah, because we're gonna have to do
work
this
with you.
on Wednesday. I'm gonna have to do it on Wednesday or Saturday, or the weekend. It looks like it's gonna be pretty simple. It looks like we could even take our artist series and use that and
Right,
craft it in a way that it could be. There are festivals that either are one day or they go for 28 days in a series. So it seems like it's pretty it should be pretty straightforward. I haven't actually looked at the application. Their applications can be a pain in the neck, but I think we could do it very simply. $500, it's not worth spending an awful lot of time to
right.
craft it. So if I could just have somebody who would we could do a walkthrough, read their criteria, come up with some ideas. We could pass it around, but I think my sense of the ideas could be either using the artist workshops that we're already planning to do and extending them through the summer, because this you can do through August 31st, or if you wanted to do some sort of stroll, so you decide whether you want a series or a one-time shot. And other than that, I think we just probably move forward and take something we're already doing and adding it. If you want to add it like the Friday night series for adolescents, something like that, we could do that like in June or whatever. So who's with me and could just spend like 2 hours or whatever?
I can. I think the idea of if we had the Saturday workshops for families, we could have the stroll with the I Spy map after they have a neat little lunch break. That would just follow right into the series that's already there. And then going out and looking at the art, that would be a simple one.
Or you could do the Friday, you could create the Friday night for the adolescents. That would be another thing.
Right.
Anybody else interested in just giving some feedback on this?
I'd be happy to give some feedback.
Great, Nora.
I need to go.
All right, Gail, thank you. As soon as I
Bye.
hear from the chamber, I'll send the stuff out and we'll pick a day.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, Gail,
Okay.
thank you.
Guys, good to see you all.
Let me see, Mary, so I'm gonna contact the Canterbury Leather, and Norma will get you partnered with sending out the job description.
Okay.
And it will be good to, does anyone else want to be on that?
Norma, let me know if you need any help getting it out. I've gotten enough of them out.
Perfect, thanks.
We just hired someone, so.
Oh, yay.
Peter, you got?
I was thinking we were talking about with the person in recruitment and things, and the fact that there's an opening there with Lisa's job. Could we combine these positions? It's as Pam pointed out, they're right next door, and could we be subcontracting with the chamber for that coordinator person?
I'm not sure that I get the idea. We did ask, I think there's 1 or 2 towns in the state of Massachusetts that have cultural districts and the chamber working together. So the person is actually involved in both. I'm not sure if we're there yet. It certainly could be up to the individual, because the part-time position for the chamber is from 10 to 3. So there might be some conflicts there in terms of programming at the old firehouse during the week, because there were meetings there every day.
This might be worth something to discuss with Nicole to see if.
Right.
Yeah, if we did it as a grant funded, where we're I know if you have a grant, if you work on a grant funded project, 6 hours of your week is for that, and you just count,
Right.
So the person could do whatever the chamber has budgeted plus the 6 hours a week. too.
Correct. Right. That could
And
be a
then-
possibility.
And Noel would probably be semi-flexible, not super flexible in the summer, but
Right.
just popping over next door.
And as somebody with
Norma?
a similar level of skills.
Pardon?
One thing to keep in mind, I think mentioning skills, Peter, that we have a different skill set. You'll see it in the job description that we need, that the Chamber of Commerce doesn't. This person will be hosting and greeting and working with a lot of arts people, where the Chamber of Commerce works for a lot of businesses. So besides dividing their time to make it work for us, I think that it would not attract the same type of candidate.
Lisa's job, though, was a lot of handling the visitor center and greeting visitors and things like that, though.
She did the financials as well.
Yeah.
So, and she's still going to be freelancing. So if we get to the point that we need somebody to do an article for us, she's there. So,
We have Nora to do articles.
oh, yeah.
You got it.
And I wanted to mention also, we have Karen Pearson, who's our
right.
liaison, and she is also a writer, and she has offered to do press.
The one thing that you should be aware is, March is international, well, we missed International Women's Day, but it's International Women's Month, I believe, March. And you had found that there were a large number of businesses on Main Street, and that especially in cultural assets that are women owned, and it definitely would be worth having an article, and that could also lead into the reopening of the district, or however you're going to place it. But I think that it would be a missed opportunity if we have 14 women-owned businesses on Main Street. I think it's a missed opportunity not to do something that says,
Right.
what does it mean? So Nora, I think that, along with the surveys, I mean, however that could be done, it would be is a nice reminder to the businesses that the cultural district is around, and that look at what we found, and we want to highlight you and your business with it. I just think that would be a no-brainer.
Right.
And we could say it's part of, Orleans culture, because,
Absolutely.
Teresa was a photographer, Teresa Cummings. And
Yeah.
we could also use, non-current people as well.
Right. When I was doing Blue Lights is when I discovered that. And then I started just between Watson's and the corner store on Main Street. There are 14 businesses, and they're run by women. And a couple of them, young women starting businesses in the middle of COVID. It's really quite amazing. I did speak to Karen Pearson about doing an article, but if you want to think about pursuing that, Nora, it's just a marvelous revelation that we have that.
It needs to be publicized.
Yeah. And that we've always been that way. It's not a new thing. We've always sort of been female focused.
Yeah, I would love to write something up. Maybe you could send me some of the information that you have on the business owners, and that would be a starting place to kind
That
of.
would be fun. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal. All right. So let me see. Do we have anything else that we need to finalize? We've got some. Bonnie, I was going to ask you when we get. Are you with us, Bonnie?
She forgot she's muted, I think, because she's talking.
Bonnie.
She's muted.
They're cutting my deck. I have to move because I can't.
Oh, okay. All
Okay.
right. All right. Are you
Cutting her
leaving
deck.
or staying? Oh, I got it. Okay. I wondered if you'd be willing to, on the program for the adolescents on Friday night, if you'd be willing to be the contact for that.
Sure.
Just,
Yep.
and I can think that you're the perfect person to sort of just be there if necessary.
Yeah.
So,
Also, I have a question. Does anybody know if Art Week is happening this year?
it is happening.
It is happening?
Right.
Okay, because that $500 could also be used for Art Week to put together a little series.
What have you gotten from Art Week?
They said that they were going to continue. I'd have to check at
I'm on their website. They're doing an intermission,
Yeah, I would guess, I would not count on Art Week to do it.
Okay.
but that was in, we made the difficult decision to take an intermission for Art Week 2021 as the
Okay.
center reevaluates strategic priorities and realities and funders.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, thank you
Okay.
for that. The last thing I read about it was last month, so.
Okay.
So this
Well,
was
that,
on May 28th, 2020.
Bonnie, what were you thinking of for the $500 for the festival?
I was just thinking that we could put together some workshops for Art Week, and since it's not happening, that doesn't matter.
But you could
I-
create, we could create our own, or we could do an
Right.
art month or
We
something.
could.
Oh.
We could. I just thought it would be a nice little, way to tie in the cultural district to,
Right.
Yeah.
what usually happens, but if it's not usually, well, like you said, Claire, even if they're not doing it, we could do,
Right,
we could call it our own Orleans Art Week or
Yeah.
Orleans
Right.
Art.
Right.
right.
We actually started those workshops for Art Week,
Right.
Right.
and then they were canceled. So we do
Yeah.
have to contact the artists. That's another person. We need to contact the artist and see if they're still in place so that we're not, planning to have an opening, and we need to meet with Teresa and she has a list of everything that we planned, and I guess we'll all call her and contact her and then make sure that all the artists are ready to step up for this summer.
And it doesn't have to be in the summer, it can start, in
Whenever,
in
yeah.
May, June. I just wanted to share one thing that I heard. I've been attending these Luis meetings, and he and I did talk about the possibility of getting some of the other art cultural districts on the Cape to meet, and have some conversations together so we could combine.
Meeting.
I think we could do that, but I loved one idea, and I think it was in Fall River or New Bedford, one of those two. And what they were doing is they're having an artist paint flowers in the cracks of all their sidewalks, and it say "Spring is coming." And I just loved that idea. I just thought it was so clever, of how to do something like that. So so I just wanted to share that because I just thought I forget it.
Yarmouth has that person doing, I think, seagulls or ducks or something.
I'm
sort of
sorry, what?
randomly around town. Have you seen that? I saw that on the TV news recently, that these little ducks are popping up, or seagulls, or I can't remember what it is, but
In Yarmouth?
yeah, some sort of aviary bird at the library and then other places around town. I'll try and find that.
That might be a good idea to introduce the brick sidewalks. Since they built them, no one's been really walking or sitting near them, walking on them. So it might be good to combine having something that would introduce that and also associate it with the new landscape we have in downtown.
Right. We had set funds aside for pre-COVID for that streetscape celebration. So we
Right.
still have some money that we could, implement that, get some music or whatever. And
Hey,
have-
Joanna,
Remember, we have
could we do
$1,700 we've got to find.
Yeah, that's true.
Bonnie, did you have a comment?
I just was wondering if we could do something out in front of the old firehouse that was outdoors, that people could walk by and like stop in, and we could have some little, takeaway food or something that we talked about. Instead of an indoor big party, we could invite businesses to stop by and learn more about us.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, we talked about finding individual musicians, buskers.
Yep.
Try to contact them. And I don't know if any of you have contacts with list of musicians. We did have a list when we had musicians in the windows of businesses 3 or 4 years ago. But it would be really great if the district could think about just organizing individual musicians to be there every Saturday from a few hours. They could choose their own time.
Do you want Orleans musicians or anybody?
Probably Orleans musicians, because
Yeah.
I think they're the people who are there already. There's two
Okay.
of them that show up all the time. So why not expand that? It wouldn't cost too much, and you'd have live music in Parish Park every Saturday.
That could be what you use the $500 for. If we apply for that, that's like a pretty clean
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
like, and then you might have some sort of giveaways that are packaged food, whether it's from a local bakery or
Right.
shop or
Right.
something like that. So
Have we paid Friends any money to do catering for us?
Well, that's the funding that we have waiting for us to spend.
Right.
Already,
Right.
they're holding,
But it's a gift card, isn't it? A gift card we have or credit?
we have credit with them of $287.17.
Yeah. So we could use that.
Right.
Yes. Well, I think that you want to pay for is the musicians, and if you were going to do any like sidewalk painting or anything like that, you pay the artists, you pay the musicians, you have the food, use the money from Friends with that. I think it's a great idea. I think all we have to do is to say during the month of, and like pick a month and then just do it, create it, and that's what we would write up and apply for the $500 for.
I also think that if we don't have, they don't want to obviously put anything on the new brick, I assume would be painting with chalk, then maybe one of the people close by, like Friends or behind the corner store that have large open parking lots.
Absolutely.
Could do something there and people would be centralized to come see it and participate in it.
So we could talk to the chamber about, like, is there anything going on that we need to know about to coordinate a date? And then we just pick a date. Or if we just say, if in the application, we just say, we are looking at the month of June or whatever month we pick, June or July, just, like make it happen, and just see. And then if we don't get the money, we haven't, spent a lot of time on that. So June or July, what do people think?
Yeah, I think we could find out from the DPW when they actually are going to be finished. That would be interesting to have it. We talked about that originally, so I think it'll be finished.
Well, it's also in June would maybe have a theme of waking up, since not that we've all been asleep, but it gives people an opportunity to extend themselves, go out and see the things that are open to them, and whatever is painted, obviously, and musicians. It would be a nice.
So should we do the month of June and then
I think so.
Do people agree with that?
My question is, how much would $500 go with musicians?
Not very far.
I mean, we all know what I have to pay for musicians. That's probably a lot more.
Yeah,
this
but
project,
the
but
point is
$500
My brother's band would play for a very low fee. They love any opportunity to play.
right, and there's
because I was thinking, like, wow, we could use Elizabeth Schultz, who lives in Orleans.
Pamela, there are guys
A lot less.
who are there anyway, and I think that's the point.
And you're talking about, like, you're not talking about a lot of time, like you're saying like 2 hours on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, the point is to have it it's happening, so why not have it somewhat more organized so we know that somebody's going to be there. And what better way to help businesses than to do these kinds of things?
Right. Have you guys heard of some towns? It's a pretty common thing throughout New England, this concept of Porch Fest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we could do something like that where bands are just kind of casually out and people could walk by and experience different bands. I love that experience.
Yeah, we have done that over the last 2 years. Yeah, and it's had different variations. Norma?
I just wanted to mention that when COVID first started and I was going to Trader Joe's, there was a violinist there, and my husband went up and spoke to her, and she used to be there all day, and the weather was not pleasant. And we asked her why she wanted to do it, and she said it got her name out there. So some people, she didn't get any payments. She had a little tip container. I'm not suggesting we do that, but there are a lot of people who have been closeted during COVID and they would love to have some exposure.
Mhm. I have to run, everyone. I just have another meeting to jump to.
right.
Thank you
Bye,
so
Nora.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for being on
You.
board.
Welcome.
And
Mary,
also,
you had your
Joanna,
hand up for
the
like
guy-
5 minutes.
the guy who owns the Trove Gallery, he has a recording studio down below. He would know a lot of musicians.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
and he is really on board with getting stuff like this going. He's a real, I think he would be fine with helping to organize or, get the word out. So he'd be a good contact person to, maybe even help with it.
I
Bonnie,
agree,
would
Bonnie.
you
He's really
consider-
good.
Yeah. would you
Very
consider-
enthusiastic.
Would
Yeah.
you consider contacting him?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't want to be like the naysayer here. I think it's all great stuff, but I am a little concerned about music and COVID right now. Performing arts places are not performing. They're not singing. You have to be 25 feet away from a singer who's not masked. And I know this is outside, but I don't know what the gathering, I think if we could make it a little more broad, maybe not June, maybe we say this summer, maybe, because
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, granted, a lot of people in Orleans are going to have the vaccine because of the age, but because of their
A lot.
age, but
Musicians won't, yeah. I mean, we're
right. And I know like the theaters are not able to open because they can't get 25 feet away from their audience,
I
and
think,
that's
yeah.
that's an issue.
And Mary, you're
But-
pointing
Good
out
point.
something that they, some of the organizations are doing something. I mean, and you look at even what's happening in New York City, the musician is inside, they're inside a storefront and there's a speaker outside so the musician can be seen from the
Oh.
windows. And, it's sort of a nice piece. And then they just put speakers out. And I think between that or even, one of the things we had actually added at the end with the $7,500 grant was to get some partitions. So that would be another thing, is to get that plexiglass, buy 1 or 2 plexiglass partitions and they're behind that. So I think that we absolutely have to figure that out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I
But
like
the-
the idea of being in the windows.
The challenge is flip side. I mean, I know we did for Halloween, we did an outdoor concert. And the health people were very particular that, you got to keep people
Right.
moving on. You can't, get like a crowd of 100 people. I know the Philadelphia Symphony's been doing these pop-up concerts around town. And it's been a big sort of problem that they want music, they want to hear, and they start congregating and that becomes
Right.
an issue. But God willing, by summer, I mean, Mary and I might have to stay home and avoid it, but but there'll be enough other people that can do it. I mean, we have we're doing Appalachian Spring this weekend. And a lot of the musicians have their own shields now.
All right.
Right.
So I think that, the only thing that we'll have to do as part of the plan is how do you keep traffic going, and God willing, by, June, it won't be as much. And I mean, I'd love to think that, I mean, I don't have any hope that I'll have it by June, but,
Well, I
hopefully
think-
we can do something.
I think we want to keep this really simple and build on what has been happening so that it isn't officially announced so that you have 500 people coming and standing there. It's like the informal busker. It's the person comes in and plays and people sit down for a minute or two and leave. It's not an announced performance.
Well, I think that might be a problem with applying for the money for. I think it has to be, I don't know how you'd get around that. I can ask, but.
Yeah, I think all we would do is contact the individuals, and the person that Bonnie has spoken of might be a good start, and ask about the possibility of that. Can they show up for a couple of hours in Parish Park, and start really small so that we can have almost a subliminal approach, where suddenly it's there.
I think he also, down below in the back of his shop, there's a parking lot back there. And he might even have a platform that a performer could stand on, and then you could put a perimeter, of however many feet that is back, and people could walk over there.
Where
And
is Trove Gallery?
Trove is next to Joe Mama's on 6A.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Next to the Earth House. Yeah. And he's like really gung ho to, get things going in Orleans.
We all are.
Well, that's great. We'll put him to work.
Yeah, we will.
We've talked about a lot of things. We have a few people who are stepping up for different projects. And I think until we hear from the chamber, are there any other comments? Where it's now 10:23, so I think we should wind this down.
Claire, for the grant, could we just kind of keep it vague? Could we say we'd like to have outdoor performances depending on COVID safety standards and then work out the particulars later?
I think we can try for that. I can even ask, I'll ask Luis. I'm just looking and I would guess that we could. I think that what I'm hearing with the music, which I like, the music is a great idea, but I'm also hearing that it may be just easier to do like chalk painting or something like that. It just might be less. That could be done maybe earlier. So let me ask Luis if we can be vague enough. Okay.
And Claire, if Clark is willing to do that, maybe that doesn't even have to be part of the grant. He could even just organize that at his place and we could tack that on as
Right.
stroll on over to to 6A and hear some music.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think what they would like to see, the state would like to see, is find some direct financial support going to artists and musicians. That's what I think. So I think using the grant to pay for that kind of thing is really important. So, I think we can be vague enough. It's possible, we could say we're looking to do this in June. However, looking at the COVID things, we could extend it. It might be switched to July or August. If it has to be spent by August 31st, that's not going to be an issue. So I think
second or third quarter might work too.
Yeah, it's late summer.
Yeah.
I think we could look at that. So, so are people more interested in music than they are in art?
I like both.
I like both too.
Well, I think if we're concentrating on banners for May 1st and we're concentrating on something that's going to celebrate the end of Streetscape, and doing art in a public space takes a lot of coordination. And I think we're overextended.
Music it is. Okay.
Music would be
It's
the way to
uplifting.
go. And keep it absolutely simple.
And it attracts people more than.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
You'll see
We
something.
can always buy some chalk and just add the chalk sort of ad hoc if we want to.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right,
All right.
I got another meeting at 10:30.
Okay.
Mary, did you have one last comment?
One thing, I mean, if we didn't have a vocalist and we didn't have a wind player, if you just had a guitarist, you would cut down on that too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
a,
we do
a
strings.
guitarist and a drummer, I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
There's always
One of the
Weissman.
people who plays
You're right.
in front of the either on the bench of the Whole Food store or the bench in Parish Park plays an accordion, and he's really, really good. That's the kind of thing. And then there's
Doesn't
another
sing.
guy who travels around with his guitar and he just sits down and sings. That's the kind of thing.
Can't sing.
Yeah, you don't want
No
a
singing.
singer.
No
You don't
singing.
want
No
a
singing.
singer.
Although
Okay.
the rules on singing have changed. They've loosened up in the last, whatever this was, that started March 1st.
But the distance would have to be very clearly monitored. Okay,
By the time
so,
we have it, they could change things again, so.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
do all the time.
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. It's been a great meeting. Thank
All
you.
those in favor?
I
Okay,
Opposed?
all right. The meeting's been adjourned.